And they began the negotiation because they knew it was real. That sub had tried to do a launch on Pearl Harbor and mimic it being a Chinese sub with a range of 390 miles versus the newer Golf II, which had a range of 780, twice the range. So now I'm trying to give you this history. What's this got to do with the price of gold? Okay, I'm very serious.
You'll get to it.
I'm getting to it, and I appreciate that you guys are allowing me to kind of do this, because for those that want to kind of understand the world at this exact moment, if you have some of these pieces, it, I think, helps to bring into focus who are we really dealing with, what are their objectives, what's their methodology, just how big is this monolithic threat, these hidden societies. They try to take control not just of America but of the whole world by covenant amongst themselves in a specter type of arrangement, a global East, a working together, extra-governmental, not just one nation but multiple nations that they control towards their objective, and they have their players hidden in plain sight all around, some that you know the names of and many that you don't. Now, in Argentina, when the government, this new government that just came into power, that's been very favored and showing favor to, for example, Trump, as he is clearly coming, back to power. They said you can do your business in whatever currency you choose. It can be silver, it can be crypto, it can be bricks, it can be dollars. And the reason that that's interesting is because what's coming is going to be all over the map. It's going to bounce back and forth. It's going to go lots of different places. If you're dealing, look, for people that think that you're safer, let's say in a crypto, the crypto process idea, the blockchain, that was created, that's a DARPA operation. Okay, that's a, you think you're safer with a digital currency than you are with a paper? It costs money to print paper. The digital is the cost of an electron on a computer screen.
Good point.
You can print it till the zeros go off the page down the corner around the planet.
Right.
And you're not limited by the cost of paper and ink, okay? And the transport and the handing out and everything else is instantaneous. But there's a season for many of these things, and they want to go to a digital currency planet-wide because then they can control you in the from a silicon position as opposed to from having to actually do it within physical matter, if you get right down to the way they view it. So there is a direction that they want to take the world, but what's the counter to that? The counter isn't paper or paper with more promises. It is a tangible. So you can have lots of tangibles. If a guy lives in an area where farming is crucial, and you can upgrade from a hoe and a rake to a tractor, that tractor is the golden goose. It lays eggs. It can do work. It can make you fabulously wealthy with the things that you can create and do with it. So the tractor is like a gold bar, but it's different because the gold bar neither spins nor toils. It is a reserve of wealth, but it doesn't make wealth. It's not a machine. In the case of oil, transferring from gold to an oil-backed dollar was actually very intelligent. Why? Because in the use of this material, you're inflating wealth, doing real work. If you take oil out of the ground and you refine it and you ship it somewhere where people have tractors, they put the oil in the tractor, and then they go out and do work and they create something. They
Right.
grow something. They make something that has utility and value. But in the use of the oil, it's consumed. You have an exchange, a change from oil in the ground, resting idly, into something that has utility that will create further growth. So you're growing things, and in the course of using it, it's consumed. You need more.
Right.
So you can pull out more and continue to do it. The currency is the things you create with it. That's the continuation of the currency. But the instant trade is the currency of energy. Energy makes the world go round. Energy is what does all of this out here. Energy heats and cools buildings. It takes people from one place to another. It can take you to the stars. Energy is the key. The more energy as the planet continues to develop. I have an extensive sci-fi collection. And one of the things, the theorems about science fiction, looking towards the future, that all highly advanced races, civilizations, as they reach some certain point,
Yeah.
they would assume all of this would be of little value to them in the way that we use it here as we move out to space. So we'd mine it all. You'd literally mine it down to the last rock at the core of the Earth, or you do something to an adjacent planet or something else, because you want all of that material, all that energy, and you reconstitute it into something that has more value to you.
Right.
And so highly advanced civilization, we think this is very valuable. Go ahead 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 years, and you think of it as a jewel. They might look at this as, something that they can turn into a space facility that covers 100 million times this area in something useful with a population of quadrillions. And with all of the plant life and the genetics and everything else saved in there. That's the way highly advanced. But it would be energy required to build that out, to make it
Right.
something, to do something. And so energy is the real currency of civilization.
Right.
And that's their mentality. So if you control the energy, you control everything. That's why the greening of the planet is all about energy. Who gets to use it and who doesn't?
Right.
It's a facade. It's a falsity, but it's used to control societies and people and currency and money and everything else. So then you come back to, okay, energy is what you really want to manage and control, but we're in a wonky moment, just like when COVID started. The planet did a hiccup, did a pause.
Yeah.
We had oil tankers, anything that would hold a gallon of oil, they were pouring it into buckets and everything else. The Saudis tried to send a dozen oil tankers here to the U.S. to put their money or their oil at very reasonable prices into storage facilities in the U.S. And we warned Trump. Trump realized that in hours before they were going to dock here and start unloading, they were blocked and weren't allowed to unload their cargo. Why was that? Because when oil wells, you can't turn them on and off like a spigot on the wall. They have to have flow. They have to maintain flow. And so even if you're trying to slow down, if the planet isn't using as much oil because it's gone into some kind of a pause,
Right.
the wells still have to work. If you don't keep capillary action going, if you're not flowing the wells, you slow it down, stop it, you destroy the well, you damage the well, and you couldn't destroy all these wells. People were trying to keep the flow going. So you actually had people paying to store their oil. Instead of getting paid for your oil, you're paying somebody to take your oil so you can keep your well going.
Wow.
So while oil has energy, it has utility and everything else, in a pause, in a dramatic moment,
Right.
it's a horrible place to invest your money if the world's going into some kind of calamity, chaos, disaster. So
Right.
what is the purpose of metals? Metals are a store of wealth. And especially at a moment when the planet or your region or something is about to go into some kind of a hiccup. Do I want to buy land? Do I want to buy a tractor? What if on the far side of it, because of whatever crisis, calamity, whatever might come, maybe they don't want your food, or maybe there's some kind of blight that somebody throws in there, or disease or something like that, or because everything goes into a pause, maybe you just don't need as much of that particular thing. We can overproduce food way beyond what we actually do produce. That's why we pay to not produce at times and places. So maybe tractors aren't a good investment for a period of time. They just sit out in the field and rust away, and you got all your money in a tractor. There's lots of places, collector cars. I have a number of cars that I've had for a very long time, and classics that I love. Is that a good investment? It can be, but like right now, I've seen prices dropping on the collector cars pretty steadily now for the last year. Same things with art and other things. And when it comes out to the other side, do people have an appetite in a green revolution for a museum piece that gets 7 miles per gallon and takes up a lot of space, and if you don't keep it in a fairly controlled environment, starts rusting and decaying away, and all the rubber dries up.
Yeah.
So, and in the world to come, let's just say 50 years from now, how many of those cars that people think are so cool and collector items and all that, will the roads be safe to drive them with computer-driven cars? Will you be allowed to share the road? It'll be dangerous to them. Okay, maybe. So maybe you just have a museum piece sitting in the garage that everybody likes to look at. You going to be Jay Leno? How many cars can you afford to store? And which ones do you choose? Is it going to be the Caliente Ford four-door? Or is it going to be the convertible? Is it going to be the Shelby? Is it going to be, you go back to the old big cars. It was the Duesenberg. It was the Cords and things like that. There was a lot of other cars that they're out there, but they're not that many, and they're not that drive very well on the road. They're not convenient. So is that where you're going to put your money? And that's going to be a great investment. What's the world going to look like on the far side of what's coming? If we go to World War IV, is that car going to be attractive to somebody when they're trying to keep things going in the right direction? Right. Gold and silver are a store of wealth. Let me just see if that helps a little bit there, maybe.
Okay, we'll try that.
All right. It just picked up too, so if I've got to go inside, I will.
Okay.
And let me just do this too. There we go. That puts the wind going the other way on my mic. So if that doesn't work, you just tell me, okay?
Okay. All right.
So gold and silver and metals are a great store of wealth.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean, though, that that's where you want it to be. The beauty of it is that it's universally accepted as having a value. Right. So what you have is you pause. When the world pauses, you can park yourself in those types of investments. And then when the world turns back on, if real estate is the choice, you
Right.
can come in and buy real estate, farmland, apartments, whatever. You can come back in, and if art's what people favor, or crypto or something else, you can dodge and dive into those things. But in the meantime, you've preserved your wealth. Plus, in a time of crisis, classically, gold and silver, even from a biblical perspective, you come into some calamity, the thing that's most readily accepted on the other side of calamity to trade with,
right,
is gold and silver.
Right.
And so if you have that, whatever happens with the currency, whatever happens with these other things, energies, etc., you've got the basis for
Right.
trade.
Correct.
That's recognizable, that is very difficult to counter or to counterfeit. Now, personally, I prefer bag silver, not collector silver, but bag silver that's not for collector value because it's old, it's unique, it's whatever. It's just the weight of the silver. It's something that's known. It's minted. I prefer U.S., but I'll take Canadian. It's well recognized, South African, etc. What's happened is they've put their stamp seal as to its purity, its weight,
Right.
and it's a known that people can know pretty readily and pretty easy to recognize as real or not. The reason I like silver is because you can get it in small enough denominations. Do I need a gold bar to buy a house? Or do I need something to buy food or fuel or something like that? Well, if I have silver, I can do it in small enough denominations. I don't have to slice it super thin. But if I've got a fair amount, if you're trying to have, $100,000 worth of silver at today's prices, you better have a truck to move it around with. Okay. So usually people have some gold and some silver. And again, I like the recognizable coins personally. The issue with the bars for me is that in a crisis, people, they're not sure. They don't know if it's been faked inside. We know the tungsten stories where weight is almost identical, things like that. So there is problems there. The coins reduce the risk for people in various ways, and it's more understood. So that's why I prefer the coins. But in these kinds of situations, having gold bars by known groups with good certification, and if you have people that are in the industry, somebody that you're already dealing with, they know what they sold you, they know what they're getting back, they recognize the names and the quality and all that, and it can happen pretty readily. I did have years ago, for example, I had silver by a particular refiner that was later discovered to have been so-so on some of their refinement processes.
Oh,
Well, I knew this based on what I already had. When the person needed to sell it and they were in an emergency and asked me to take it, and I says, well, there's an issue. I got it at a discount, a fairly good discount. Rather than just sell it, I went and sent it out to a refinery that melted it, recertified it for weight and purity, and then I got it back. I paid a fee for that, but that fee had already been removed from the price I paid for it. But that's the kind of thing that can go on. And so I say all of that to say we're coming into a dicey moment. Does it make sense to have gold and silver as opposed to other things? That's something you have to get an answer from God about for your own situation. That's why I don't like to do gurus. You can take information, advisory from people that understand this, that are pretty sharp cookies. But at the end of the day, it's a very personal thing. You shouldn't put the weight on somebody else to make the decision for you, or trust them to make a decision that's best for you when you don't know what God's got in mind, what you're going to be faced with, where you're going, what the various things are. So I think your safety comes in that you include God, literally prayer, in the lead up to the decision.
For sure. Oh, Juan, you got a phone call. You have to come back in. Jen warned us of this. Right, Matt?
That's right.
Hey, well, we're waiting for Juan to come back in. He's talking about all of this in terms of, what we've been trying to do with people getting to know you, Matt, right? And getting to know your company. You have a lot of people from our audience that's already worked with you. They're giving referrals to their friends. So that kind of, I think, what do I want to say, meets the threshold of what Juan was saying about, the quality of what you're going to get. I'm waiting for him to come down here so I can kind of click him on.
And it's funny because coincidentally, I had a call yesterday because I've heard this part from Juan before. And I had a woman who called in yesterday with, a certain amount of money. And she's like, I want to do, I have a really great real estate opportunity. I'm like, take that part and do the real estate opportunity. That's what you need to do. If you want to do the other portion in, gold or silver, we could do that. So I kind of took what Juan was saying. We're like, hey, if you have a place where you can park this and make money, go for it. It wasn't just like, no, don't do that. Just buy all gold and silver. I wasn't like that. I said, hey, go after there's a money making opportunity, go put the money to work.
So you're not like the guru that's just saying you've got to do it this way. Like you're listening to people. And I know, Matt, you've said for quite a while that you listen to what people want. You give them advice on different products. It was interesting that Juan was saying about the stamped coinage, because I know you were going to ask him about the silver, the silver eagles with Reagan. That would actually be probably a good question to bring up when he gets back in. But, that's that you're listening to people, right? It's a placeholder. That's basically what Juan is saying. It's a placeholder, and it does represent the energy that you've already done, right? And you've already invested. So it's this placeholder, waiting for the investment angle to kind of kick in again, right? But for now, it's crazy. I mean, you know.
And I think he's alluding to maybe a barter economy.
Yeah, right? I thought of that. The very first thing when he was talking about Venezuela, I thought about barter. Yeah.
Because everything starts with energy, right? Everything starts, including mining for gold and silver, right? You got to put oil, gas in the tank, right, to mine the stuff. So everything starts with energy, but even energy can be unsteady, because what he was talking about was when oil went to -40 in the summer of 2020 under Trump. Right. That's when people were literally paying to take the oil because because it never stopped coming out of the ground. That's the explanation. So they needed to just pay somebody to just say, hey, hold on to this. Right? Yeah,
there you go. There it is. It's like a placeholder, right? Yeah. That's really interesting about the wells. I'm going to go and get Juan back in here. Really interesting about the wells. That was very, very interesting to hear that. So, hey, Juan.
Hey, I apologize. I moved where it's a little less windy, and I apologize. I had an incoming call, which StreamYard doesn't let me block.
I know.
Well, and but let me just because I do have another interview coming in about a half an hour, and I want to finish a thought or two for you that will help. And I hope that I've told audiences this before about gold and silver, but I hope that helps your audience to kind of understand why gold or silver right now in a time of crisis, rather than trying to guess exactly where is going to be the best place on the far side of the crisis to put your life energy, which you denominate in, say, a metal or something like that. Who knows what the other side of this looks like? So the thing that's the most commonly accepted is gold and silver, and then you don't leave it in gold and silver forever. Right. You're there parking it through a time of turmoil or crisis to re-engage it, to do work by converting it into something that otherwise has utility or value, and moving on. So for people that think that you're doing gold and silver as an investment, I don't think that's the correct way to look. You're doing it as a store of wealth, a crisis period moment, so that on the far side, it's not about making money, it's about not losing it. And the other advantage is when everybody around you is just reacting and going with what the media says or the latest guru or whatever. Right. On the far side, you may realize relative gain over everybody around you because you made a wiser choice that has greater value to buy back into the game. Right. Am I saying it in the right way? That makes sense to you guys?
Makes perfect sense.
So I don't have any reservation at this exact moment. Is the world coming into turmoil? Who's behind it? What's their methodology? What are they trying to con you into? Right. Next, to go along with them? What's the propaganda that's driving the herd, whether it be to cryptos or tractors or collector art or diamonds or something like that? What is the mindset of them trying to con you into doing what favors them?
Right.
With what they're doing, and this choice between gold and silver. And I told you what my thinking is there. Now let me deviate, and just because I want to get something in here that I mentioned to you before we started, and it's kind of a marker. It's for your audience. I'll be talking about this over the next days and weeks. The whole planet will. But
Ooh, go, Juan, go!
I want to discuss it with you guys.
Who is Q? Have you met Q? What is a Q? And what does it do? JFK's grave site, the shape of a Q. Eternal flame, cause the plan keep the light. Check the bird's eye view. Never say never. All math beginning to add up. Come together like it's 2 and 2. But we won, where we go, where we float, where we fly. Heaven sent, man, gotta see it through. Gotta see it through like a pane of glass. Looking glass, bring the pain. Yellow cube, insane. Get the picture, got a frame. Enjoy the show or scripture. Boy, Q is on a mission. Resolute desk underneath, no kidding. Are you getting it yet? Stage is set, revenge is best. John, don't forget. No, John, don't forget. Big reveal when the question get met. Serving up a storm like he never hit the net. Never did forget, never take a let. Game, set, match. All love, love for the rest. Do we gotta ask who is Q? Get a clue when you learn about the truth. W, Vincent too. Maybe then you could place your bets. Yeah, you could place your bets. House always wins when we're talking white. White house, white hats, dark to light, vibes on blast. N529 in flight. Alright, yep. Schumann really hit the roof. Stay grounded, ironically remove your shoes. Back to Q, who is QAnon? A million proofs when you look, proving Q is John. 1717, number in attendance for his burial at sea. July 16th be the start, right before the 17 and 18 made his mark. Can't forget the 23, all the W's shouldn't really trouble you, cause we winning so bigly. And now we pop the question, but we never take a knee, engage the resurrection. Yeah. Many see the blessing in the writing on the wall. Building up the border and the movement's getting tall. Proof is in the pudding if you take the time to seek. TGIF if you know what I mean. But dogs stay loyal every day of the week.